The warning lights on the bridge of the Cosmic Dawn flashed red as an urgent distress signal pierced through the ship's communication systems. Captain Vextera, her blue-scale hands dancing across the control panel, quickly traced the source to the jungle planet Kethera 9. "It's from the Human Research Station," she announced to her crew, her voice carrying the weight of concern. "Dr. Geo Kim has been down there for 3 months studying the local wildlife." Security Chief Gorthak made a grinding sound with his crystalline body parts, a clear sign of his annoyance. His rock-like exterior shifted as he moved closer to the captain's chair. "Humans always do this," he said, his voice echoing through the ship's speakers. "They go to dangerous places alone and think they can handle anything." Science Officer Kalin fluffed her bright yellow feathers and tucked her wings closer to her body. Her bird-like head tilted as she spoke. "Captain, I must remind you that Kethera 9 is not just any dangerous planet. It's home to the Apex Razorclaw. These creatures are known throughout the galaxy as unstoppable killing machines." Captain Vextera nodded gravely. She had heard the stories. The Apex Razorclaw was a 6-legged beast the size of a small shuttle, with claws that could cut through metal and a hunting instinct that never failed. No living being had ever successfully tamed or even approached one without being torn apart. "Prepare the rescue shuttle," she ordered. "Full protective gear and heavy weapons. We don't know what we're walking into." The journey to the planet's surface took only 20 minutes, but it felt much longer. The crew checked their equipment multiple times. Gorthak loaded extra ammunition into his plasma rifle. Kalin prepared medical supplies, expecting the worst. Captain Vextera reviewed the planet's dangerous species files one more time, hoping they wouldn't encounter anything too deadly. The shuttle landed in a small clearing near Dr. Jiho's research camp. The jungle around them was thick and dark, with strange sounds echoing from every direction. Bright colored plants grew everywhere, and the air smelled sweet but dangerous. "Stay close together," Captain Vextera whispered. "Keep your weapons ready." They followed the signal deeper into the jungle until they reached a small campsite. What they saw there made all 3 crew members stop in their tracks and stare in complete shock. Dr. Geo Kim sat on a fallen log, calmly eating what looked like a sandwich. Next to her, lying in the soft grass like a giant house cat, was an Apex Razorclaw. The creature's black scales shimmered in the filtered sunlight, and its 6 powerful legs were stretched out in a relaxed position. The bioluminescent stripes along its spine glowed softly blue and green. The beast was even bigger than the stories described. Its head was the size of a small vehicle, and its claws could easily slice a person in half. But instead of hunting or attacking, it was making quiet, rumbling sounds that almost seemed happy. "This cannot be real," Kalin whispered, her feathers standing straight up in fear. Gorthak raised his weapon but couldn't bring himself to fire. The scene was too strange, too impossible to process quickly. Captain Vextera activated her translator and called out in the calmest voice she could manage. "Dr. Kim, please step away from the predator very slowly. Do not make any sudden movements." Jiho looked up from her sandwich with a confused expression on her face. She was a small woman with short black hair and kind eyes that showed no fear at all. "What predator?" she asked, genuinely puzzled. "The Apex Razorclaw right next to you." Gorthak shouted through his speaker system. Jiho glanced down at the massive creature beside her and laughed softly. "Oh, you mean Buddy? He's not a predator." "Well, I mean he is, but not to me. He's hurt and needs help. His left front leg has a bad cut, and I think he might have eaten something that made his stomach upset." As if responding to his name, the creature called Buddy lifted his enormous head and made a sound that was almost like a purr. He looked at the alien crew members with large, intelligent eyes that showed curiosity rather than hunger. "She's lost her mind," Gorthak said quietly to the others. "The isolation has driven her crazy. Or maybe," Kalin suggested with growing worry, "the creature has some kind of mind control power that we don't know about." Captain Vextera studied the human carefully. Dr. Geo appeared completely normal, except for her shocking lack of fear. She moved naturally around the deadly beast, even reaching out to gently pat its massive head. The Apex Razorclaw responded by closing its eyes and making more of those strange purring sounds. "Dr. Kim," The captain said slowly, "We need to get you back to the ship immediately. You may be in more danger than you realize." Geo shook her head firmly. "I'm not leaving without Buddy. He needs medical care and he trusts me. I can't abandon him now." The alien crew members looked at each other with growing alarm. Not only was the human refusing to leave the deadly predator, but she wanted to bring it with them. The argument between Dr. Jiho and the alien crew lasted for over an hour. The human woman stood her ground with stubbornness that impressed and terrified the rescue team in equal measure. "I will not leave Buddy behind," Jiho said for the 10th time, crossing her arms over her chest. "He's injured and alone. If we abandon him here, he'll probably die." Captain Vextera felt a headache building behind her scaled temples. In all her years of commanding rescue missions, she had never encountered such an impossible situation. "Dr. Kim, that creature could kill everyone on my ship in minutes. It's an apex razorclaw, not a lost pet. He has a name," Geo replied firmly, "and he's not going to hurt anyone. Look at him." All eyes turned to Buddy, who was still lying peacefully in the grass. The massive predator had rolled onto his side and was watching the conversation with what almost looked like amusement. His bioluminescent stripes pulsed slowly in shades of blue and purple. Gordhack made angry clicking sounds with his crystalline body. "This is madness. We should sedate the human and leave the beast behind." "You will do no such thing," Geo snapped, stepping protectively closer to Buddy. "If you try to leave without him, I'll stay here too." Kalin flapped her wings nervously. "Captain, we cannot leave a human citizen behind. The Galactic Council would have our flight licenses revoked." Captain Vextera closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Sometimes leadership meant making decisions that felt completely wrong, but were the only options available. "Fine, we'll bring the creature aboard, but under the strictest containment protocols possible." Dr. Geo's face lit up with happiness. "Thank you. You won't regret this decision." "I already regret it," the captain muttered under her breath. Getting Buddy onto the ship required 3 doses of heavy sedative and a cargo loading crane. Even unconscious, the apex razorclaw was an intimidating sight. His 6 legs hung limply as the crane lifted him into the cargo hold, but his claws still gleamed dangerously in the artificial light. Gordhack supervised the installation of triple reinforced containment barriers around the beast. Force fields hummed with energy, creating multiple layers of protection between Buddy and the rest of the ship. Warning signs in 12 different languages covered every surface of the containment area. This setup could hold a small battleship, Gordhack announced with satisfaction. "Nothing is getting through these barriers." "Good," Captain Vextera replied. "Because if that thing gets loose, we're all dead." Dr. Jiho watched the containment preparations with obvious disapproval. "All of this seems excessive. He's not going to hurt anyone." "Famous last words," Kalin mumbled, checking the medical bay's emergency supplies for the 3rd time. Once they were safely in space, the crew expected Dr. Jiho to settle into normal behavior. Instead, her actions became even more concerning. She spent most of her time in the cargo hold, sitting just outside the containment barriers and talking to the sedated creature. "How are you feeling today, Buddy?" she would ask in the same gentle voice someone might use with a sick child. "The medicine should help your leg heal faster." When Buddy was briefly conscious between sedative doses, Dr. Geo would pull out small toys and wave them around. She had somehow created a collection of colorful objects that she moved back and forth, try to get the massive predator's attention. The sight of a human playing with an apex razorclaw made the entire crew deeply uncomfortable. Even more disturbing was the food situation. Dr. Geo had taken over a section of the ship's kitchen and was preparing elaborate meals for her pet. She cooked fresh meat with various spices and vegetables, arranging everything on plates like she was serving dinner to an honored guest. "Look what I made for you today," she would say, holding up a perfectly prepared meal. "I added those protein supplements the medical bay recommended." Captain Vextera called an emergency meeting on the 3rd day of their journey. The crew gathered in the conference room, all looking stressed and worried. "We need to discuss Dr. Kim's psychological state," the captain began carefully. "Her behavior is becoming increasingly concerning. Colin nodded eagerly, her feathers ruffling with agitation. She's showing clear signs of mental breakdown. No rational being forms emotional attachments with apex predators. It goes against every survival instinct in the galaxy. I've been monitoring her vital signs, Gordhack added. Her stress levels are actually lower than normal. She appears to be genuinely happy spending time with that death machine. That's what makes it so frightening, Captain Vexera said. She truly believes the creature is harmless. Meanwhile, in the cargo hold, Dr. Geo was having a very different conversation with her unconscious companion. She sat cross-legged on the floor, just outside the containment barriers, and spoke to Buddy as if he could understand every word. I know they think I'm crazy, she said softly, watching the slow rise and fall of the creature's breathing. They don't understand that you're not just a killing machine. You're intelligent and gentle and just misunderstood. When Captain Vexera later asked Dr. Geo about her behavior, the human woman's response sent chills through the entire crew. He's just a big softy once you get to know him. Geo insisted with complete sincerity. All he needs is love and understanding. The crew exchanged horrified glances, convinced that their passenger had completely lost her mind. The maintenance work was supposed to be simple and routine. Engineer Xylox had performed the same power grid adjustments hundreds of times before without any problems. But this time, something went wrong. A massive electrical surge shot through the ship systems like lightning. Lights flickered wildly throughout the corridors, and computer screens went dark for several terrifying seconds. The backup generators kicked in immediately, but the damage was already done. In the cargo hold, sparks flew from the containment unit's control panels. The triple reinforced barriers that held Buddy flickered once, twice, then disappeared completely. Warning alarms began screaming throughout the ship as the system registered a catastrophic containment failure. Captain Vexera was reviewing supply reports in her quarters when an emergency alert reached her communicator. The mechanical voice was calm, but its words sent ice through her veins. Critical containment breach in cargo hold 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. She ran to the bridge faster than she had ever moved before. Her crew was already at their emergency stations, faces pale with terror. Through the security monitors, they could see the empty containment area where Buddy had been held. "Where is it?" she demanded, her voice sharp with panic. "Unknown, Captain," Colin replied, her feathers standing straight up in fear. The creature disappeared from the sensors the moment the barriers failed. Gordhack was frantically checking his weapon systems. "I'm reading massive life signs moving through the lower decks. It's heading toward the main living quarters." Captain Vexera felt her heart racing. An apex razor claw loose on a spaceship was everyone's worst nightmare. The corridors were too narrow for proper combat, and the creature's claws could slice through the hull itself. "All crew to emergency stations," she commanded over the ship-wide communication system. "Initiate complete lockdown procedures. No one leaves their quarters until further notice." The crew armed themselves with every weapon available. Plasma rifles, shock cannons, and emergency blasters were distributed quickly. They moved through the corridors in tight formation, expecting to find torn metal and pools of blood at any moment. "It's probably already killed Dr. Kim," Gordhack said grimly, his crystalline armor gleaming under the emergency lights. Humans are so fragile. They followed the life sign readings toward the recreation area, where the ship's sensors indicated the massive creature had stopped moving. Captain Vexera held her weapon ready, her finger hovering over the trigger. Whatever they found around the next corner would probably be horrible. The automatic doors slid open, and the rescue team prepared for the worst possible scene. Instead, they discovered something that made absolutely no sense at all. Dr. Geo Kim stood in the middle of the room, completely unharmed and apparently unconcerned. She was smiling and talking in a cheerful voice to someone they couldn't see. "There you are, Buddy. I was wondering where you went. Did the loud noises scare you?" The alien crew moved further into the room and saw the impossible. Buddy, the massive apex razor claw that should have been tearing the ship apart, was sitting perfectly still near the far wall. His enormous body was positioned exactly like a well-trained dog waiting for commands. "Dr. Kim," Captain Vexera shouted, Get away from that creature immediately. Geo looked over at them with confusion. Why? He's not doing anything wrong. It's a killing machine. Gordhack yelled, raising his plasma rifle. Move aside so we can destroy it. You will not hurt him, Geo said firmly, stepping between the weapons and her companion. Buddy, sit. What happened next would be talked about in scientific circles for decades afterward. The apex razorclaw, a creature that had never been successfully trained or controlled by any known species, immediately lowered his massive body into a sitting position. His tail, thick as a tree trunk, began swishing back and forth across the floor. Quillen's beak fell open in shock. That's impossible. Good boy, Geo praised, reaching into her pocket and pulling out what looked like a treat. Now, show these nice people you're friendly. Buddy tilted his huge head, considering the request. Then, to the complete amazement of everyone watching, he performed a perfect play bow. His front legs stretched forward while his rear end stayed high in the air, exactly like the universal gesture of playfulness that existed across hundreds of species. He's playing? Captain Vextera whispered, lowering her weapon slightly. Dr. Geo walked over to Buddy without any fear and began scratching behind his ears. The area she was touching was right next to claws that could slice her in half, but she seemed completely comfortable. The most shocking thing of all was the sound that came from the massive predator. It was a deep, rumbling purr that vibrated through the ship's floor. The sound was so loud and contented that it felt like standing next to a running engine. This cannot be happening, Gordhack said, his voice barely above a whisper. Apex razorclaws don't purr. They don't sit on command. They don't play. They kill everything they encounter. Well, apparently Buddy didn't read that manual, Dr. Geo replied cheerfully, continuing to pet the enormous creature. Did you, boy? You're just a big sweetie, aren't you? The alien crew stood frozen in place, watching their entire understanding of the universe crumble around them. Everything they thought they knew about predator behavior, about survival instincts, about the natural order of things, was being proven wrong by one small human and her impossible pet. The crew remained frozen in the recreation room, staring at the impossible scene before them. Dr. Geo continued petting Buddy as if nothing unusual had happened, while the massive creature made happy purring sounds that echoed through the ship. Captain Vextera was the first to find her voice. Dr. Kim, we need an explanation. How is this possible? That creature should have killed everyone on this ship by now. Geo looked up from where she was scratching under Buddy's chin. Oh, that's because everyone has the wrong idea about apex razorclaws. Buddy isn't a full-grown adult. He's still just a baby, really. A baby? Gordhack's crystalline voice cracked with disbelief. That thing is the size of a shuttlecraft. Yes, but he's only about 2 years old, Geo explained patiently. Adult apex razorclaws are much bigger. Buddy here was separated from his family group when he was very young. He's been living alone in the jungle, trying to figure out how to survive. She gestured to the creature, who had now rolled over onto his back with his 6 legs sticking up in the air. Look at this behavior. Does this look like a dangerous predator to you? Colin took a nervous step forward, her scientific curiosity beginning to overcome her fear. You mean he's exhibiting juvenile play behavior? Exactly, Jiho said with excitement. Buddy shows all the signs of pack-bonding behavior that we see in earth animals like wolves and dogs. He was lonely and scared when I found him. All he needed was someone to care about him. The human woman began rubbing Buddy's enormous belly, and the creature made sounds of pure contentment. His bioluminescent stripes glowed brighter, pulsing in what appeared to be a happy pattern. This is still insane, Gordhack muttered, but he lowered his weapon completely. No species in the galaxy bonds with apex predators. Humans do, Geo replied simply. We've been doing it for thousands of years on Earth. My ancestors took wolves, some of the most dangerous predators on our planet, and turned them into dogs. We made friends with wildcats and created house pets. Some humans have even raised bears, tigers, and lions as companions. Captain Vextera felt her understanding of human psychology shifting dramatically. Your species regularly forms emotional attachments with creatures that could kill you. The best relationships are built on trust and respect. Jiho said, continuing to pet Buddy's belly. Buddy protects me from other dangers in the jungle, and I take care of him when he's hurt or sick. We look out for each other. It's really that simple. But how did you know he wouldn't attack you? Kalin asked, inching closer despite her instincts screaming at her to run. I didn't at first, Jiho admitted, but I could see he was injured and alone. When I offered him food and medical help, he was grateful. Animals, even predators, can sense when someone means them harm or when someone wants to help them. But he suddenly rolled back onto his feet and padded over to where the alien crew members were standing. They all tensed, ready to run or fight, but the massive creature simply sat down and looked at them with curious, intelligent eyes. He wants to meet you properly, Jiho explained with a smile. Buddy, these are my friends. Can you say hello nicely? The apex razor claw tilted his enormous head and made a soft chuffing sound. It was completely different from his earlier purring, more like a gentle greeting. Kalin surprised everyone, including herself, by taking another step forward. He's actually quite beautiful, she said softly. Look at those markings. Would you like to give him a treat? Jiho asked, pulling a small piece of dried meat from her pocket. He loves these. With trembling wingtips, Kalin accepted the treat and held it out toward Buddy. The creature leaned forward very slowly and gently took the food from her grasp with the tip of his tongue, being incredibly careful not to touch her with his dangerous teeth. Oh my, Kalin whispered in amazement. He's so gentle. Over the next few hours, something remarkable happened aboard the ship. One by one, the crew members began to interact with Buddy. Gordhack was impressed when the creature learned to navigate the narrow corridors without damaging any equipment, turning sideways and moving carefully to avoid scraping the walls with his claws. Captain Vextera watched in fascination as Buddy demonstrated problem-solving abilities. When Dr. Jiho asked him to retrieve a tool that had been dropped behind some cargo crates, the creature figured out how to use his claws like fingers to grab the object and bring it back. His intelligence level is remarkable, the captain observed. Much higher than we assumed for his species. That's because no one ever bothered to try communicating with him before, Jiho replied. Everyone just saw a dangerous predator and ran away or tried to kill it. No one ever wondered what they might be thinking or feeling. By the end of the day, even Gordhack had admitted that Buddy was not entirely terrible. The security chief had watched the creature carefully arrange his sleeping area in the cargo hold, organizing his blankets and toys with surprising precision. Perhaps, Captain Vextera said thoughtfully, we have seriously underestimated both human empathy and the potential for interspecies relationships. Dr. Jiho smiled as she watched Buddy settle down for the night. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to see beyond the surface and give friendship a chance. 3 months had passed since the day Buddy broke free from his containment cell, and the Cosmic Dawn had become a very different ship. What started as a terrifying emergency had transformed into something nobody could have predicted. Every morning, Buddy performed what Dr. Jiho called a security patrol. The massive creature would walk slowly through every corridor of the ship, his bioluminescent stripes glowing softly in the dim hallway lights. He checked each room carefully, making sure everything was safe and secure. Good morning, Buddy, Engineer Xylox would say as the apex razor claw peeked into the engine room. The small, green-skinned alien had gotten used to seeing the enormous predator during his daily routine. Buddy would respond with a gentle chuff sound and move on to the next area. His claws, once feared by everyone aboard, now clicked softly against the metal floors as he walked. He had learned to move carefully through the ship without damaging anything. In the cargo bay, Buddy had proven to be incredibly helpful. His natural strength allowed him to move heavy containers that would normally require mechanical lifters. Dr. Jiho would point to a crate and say, "Buddy, move that over there, please." The creature would carefully grip the container with his claws and relocate it exactly where she wanted. I never thought I would see the day when an apex razor claw became a cargo handler, Gordhack admitted to Captain Vextera one afternoon. The security chief had completely changed his opinion about their unusual crew member. Buddy's most impressive skill was his ability to learn languages. Dr. Jiho had started teaching him basic commands in her native Korean, but soon discovered that the creature could understand instructions in multiple alien languages as well. When Colin asked him to locate the missing sample container in her own feathered species tongue, Buddy immediately began searching the area with his keen senses. His intelligence surpasses many sentient species I've encountered, Colin reported during one of their weekly meetings. He understands context, follows complex instructions, and even shows emotional responses to different situations. The breakthrough moment came when a small research specimen escaped from the biology lab. The creature, a quick and clever little mammal from a distant planet, had hidden somewhere in the ship's ventilation system. The crew spent hours searching without success. Dr. Geo had an idea. Buddy, can you help us find the lost animal? Use your nose. The apex razorclaw immediately went to work. His hunting instincts, once used to track prey in the jungle, were now employed to help his shipmates. Within minutes, he had located the escaped specimen hiding behind some pipes in a maintenance area too small for any crew member to reach. Incredible, Captain Vextera murmured as she watched Buddy gently extract a frightened animal with the tip of one claw, being incredibly careful not to harm the tiny creature. He's using predator skills to help instead of hurt. Word of Buddy's remarkable transformation spread throughout the galactic community. Captain Vextera spent weeks writing detailed reports about Dr. Geo's methods and the unexpected results they had achieved. Her findings challenged everything the scientific community thought they knew about apex predators and interspecies relationships. The human ability to form emotional bonds across species barriers, she wrote in her final report to the Galactic Council, represents a unique form of diplomatic intelligence that could completely change how we approach first contact with aggressive alien species. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Scientists from dozens of worlds wanted to study Dr. Geo's techniques. Military commanders were interested in applying her methods to peaceful negotiations with hostile alien races. Even philosophers began debating the implications of human empathy as a tool for galactic diplomacy. Dr. Geo found herself invited to speak at conferences throughout the galaxy. She established the Interspecies Companion Training Program, designed to teach other xenobiologists how to form bonds with dangerous creatures. Her first class had 50 students from 20 different species, all eager to learn her methods. The key, she explained to her students, is to see the individual, not just the species. Every creature, no matter how dangerous it might seem, has a capacity for friendship if you approach it with patience and respect. Buddy became the program's star example. He demonstrated basic commands, showed how he had learned to control his natural hunting instincts, and proved that even apex predators could become gentle companions. Visiting scientists would watch in amazement as the massive creature played fetch with Dr. Jiho or carefully accepted treats from nervous researchers. On the day they prepared for their next mission, Dr. Jiho found Buddy in his favorite spot near the ship's main viewport. He was lying on his custom-made bed, watching the stars drift past as they traveled through space. "Ready for another adventure, boy?" she asked, settling down beside him. Buddy lifted his enormous head and nuzzled against her shoulder, making his happy purring sound. His bioluminescent stripes glowed brighter, a sign that he was content and excited about whatever came next. "Who's a good boy?" Dr. Jiho cooed, scratching behind his ears in a spot that always made him wiggle with joy. As the former apex predator of Kethera, Nine wagged his massive tail with pure happiness. It was clear that he had discovered something far more valuable than hunting prey in the jungle. He had found a family among the stars, and a purpose that brought joy instead of fear to everyone around him. The universe, it seemed, was full of possibilities when approached with an open heart and an understanding mind.